So, Eric, thanks for coming on short notice, and I appreciate you being here on Unfathered Fathers. That's the name of the podcast. Eric, I think probably 4, maybe 5 years I've known you now, and I think that the reason I wanted to get you on this podcast because we have a real connection of just struggle in our life and things maybe getting us off a course and God rescuing us and getting us back on course. So
Sure.
Just want to kind of talk to you about your journey. But so Eric, just kind of tell me, kind of where you grew up, the area, what it was like, your mom and dad and growing up as a kid.
Sure. Well, we grew up, started out in northeast Arkansas, and then we moved to Springdale when I was 10, and my dad was a pastor of the Church of God in Springdale, and he was a pastor my whole life, and grew up, childhood, we played ball and sports, and went on, and I went to college, but growing up, we had a good life and just lived and went on and had a good time.
So as far as your dad as a father, I know you said he was a pastor, but what kind of man was he at home?
Oh, my dad was, a great man. He, always followed God, but on the other things, my dad taught us a lot about, how to live and how to win, and be winners, and taught us right from wrong, just because the path we may choose, he taught us and give us a foundation of what we should know.
Yeah. And what kind of, like, as far as your mother and father, like, together, what kind of husband?
Oh, my mom and dad had a good relationship, and, everything was always good. There's always problems in
Sure.
life as we go on and as we know, now. And but overall, I had a great relationship at home. My mom and dad had a good relationship, and, everything was great.
So, and then what about how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 older sisters I had. One has passed away. But
Okay. So you were the baby.
I was the baby, yeah.
Okay. And then in sports, I know you rodeoed a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up playing football and baseball and ran track and things, and I started rodeoing and then went from there to having a career in that.
Yeah. So we were talking before the podcast. For somebody that didn't go to church, didn't grow up in the church, and was around addiction and stuff, you would assume that that's probably what they're going to end up.
Yeah.
But kind of how we made our connection is, I got to be part of your life while you were trying to come out of addiction. But growing up, a good father and a good mother, it just shows that sin and addiction can just pretty much grab hold of anybody.
I sure can get anyone. Yeah.
So, like in school and stuff, when you were in high school, was you pretty straight laced? Did you just focus on sports?
Yeah, I didn't really do it a whole lot. I didn't really, didn't drink or anything. I was pretty straight laced, and every now and then, I might drink, but not ever very often, and school, kind of when I went on to college and got away on my own. That's kind of when I started my problems, the good and the bad.
Yeah. So because we were, I was trying to kind of giving you an idea of just what we want to talk about. Because I know that one of your major vices was alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
To a point to where it almost took you and almost took your life.
Yeah.
So, how does a guy go from good parents, mom and dad, probably a dad that, set you straight,
mm-hmm.
get on to you. I'm sure there was discipline in the home.
Yeah.
And, but there's also love and forgiveness. And so how does a guy go from seeing that, I'm sure your home felt safe, probably wasn't chaotic.
No.
So where did that kind of vice of becoming an alcoholic, where do you think that started?
Well, it started off, just kind of, partying some with friends and going on. And then, from there, I had struggles with depression and things. And, a major problem was I got hurt really bad from and I couldn't do what I really loved anymore. And then from there, I just fell in a hole, kind of, and went down a, deep hole of depression and alcohol, and then I thought it would get rid of my problems for a while, and then it really just influenced them more and made them worse. Everything that you put behind when you're drinking or you get drunk, and your problems are gone then, but in the morning they're going to be there again, and then they're usually going to be double or triple what you had to start with. If you just faced it up front, they would have been gone.
Yeah. What did you get? What injury did you acquire that stopped you from?
In '99, I got hung up on a bareback course in Dayton, Iowa, and drug me around for several minutes underneath it, and I had nerve damage that paralyzed the right side of my body, so I couldn't really do anything or get around very well, or but you're a high intensity guy, like we were laughing a couple of days ago because you're really repetitive also. If you I see it flying burrito every time I go in there, you're in the corner there. But I know that you hold records in weightlifting. And I know when you rode saddle bronc or bareback, you was really good at that. It's good at sports. Yeah.
So did you base a lot of your identity, do you think, maybe in the sports?
Yeah, and in that, and that's kind of how I've known the people a lot of times, or I'm adrenaline junkie. We always go back to it, but in the end, you're just addicted to something else, and you got to make better decisions sometimes. It's not what you do, but as far as I still, I'm a competitive power lifter, and I broke 6 all-time world records and currently hold 3. But whatever I do, I'm kind of all or nothing. So when drinking came around, I'm kind of all or nothing at that too.
Yeah.
So I had to make, now I just make better decisions on, I lift weights and do other things. And, really without God in my life, I couldn't do any of it, because I'm not supposed to lift anything. I broke my back in 2013 racing motorcycles, and wasn't supposed to lift over 10 pounds, but, I squatted 804 pounds, so I beat that quite a bit.
So and for me, I don't know if you're this way, but, I tell everybody that's trying to quit alcohol, if they reach out to me and they ask me how, because alcohol by far, meth I felt like was easy, weed was easy to quit, but alcohol was probably, or it was the hardest thing to quit, and I had to accept giving it up, still loving it.
Yeah.
Like I joke around, but it really the truth. I mean, if I felt like I could be a good father, be a good husband, serve the Lord well, and drink, I would. Mm-hmm. But for me, because I really enjoyed it. Yeah. But for me, I know that it's just not a possibility. Yeah. And I know that I cannot be the man that God requires of me. And so it's the Bible says we suffer many pains for the sake of Christ. And I feel like, although to some people that might be something to not compare of a pain, but it was an enjoyment. It's something, to relax. But it also something that can destroy a family. It can make you unfaithful. It can put you in so what about for you? I mean, with you quitting, did you feel like God just took it away, took the desire away, or did you just had to decide one day, I just got to be
Well, I had to want to. Like in my situation, I had got really bad off, and I wasn't wanting to kill myself, but I didn't care if I died, and at the end, my story was I had been 18 days straight, blacked out, drunk, never a sober breath in that 18 days. And my mom showed up on a Friday and asked me if I wanted to get help, and I said, yeah. I wanted help a long time before she came, but I wasn't ready, and until, if a person wants to quit, they have to want to quit themselves. Until you want to, it doesn't matter what happens in your life, you're not going to. Mm-hmm. there's been lots of times we'd say, yeah, boy, Lord, if we can just make it through this today, I'm never going to drink again, And, oh, yeah, we've all been there,
Yeah.
sick.
God, please get me out of this.
Yeah, get me out of this,
Yeah.
Lord. I'm going to be done.
Yeah.
But no, those things, I got way past that point, in those times, and I was drinking probably a half gallon to a gallon of vodka every day. And I really ain't supposed to be here now, but God had a, choice in my life. And I said on the 18th day, when my mom showed up, I went to the detox center and checked in, and I blew on the breathalyzer, and that lady erased it all. Said, it's like it can't be true. And I blew again. She said, you're dead. And I just walked in here. How am I dead? Well, I went to the hospital, and in 11 hours, my blood alcohol, they got it down to 3.7. It's almost 5 times the legal limit in 11 hours later. And there was some things that went on there. When I was laying in the hospital bed, some things were going on, and I could hear everybody talking, and the doctors was running in there and rushing in and working on me. And kind of what really brought my attention to everything is they were talking, and I was wanting to talk, but I couldn't say nothing or move. And at that time, I thought, well, man, this is how you do it. I've done it. I'm going out. This is the end. And it's like about that time, I had a talk with God. Like, He said, Eric, this is the last time, and I can't help you anymore. I've helped you many times, but this is it. And I said, as I was laying there, I couldn't talk or move, and I could see everything going on and hear it all, and I was wanting to say something, but nothing would come out. So I'd had a talk with God, and then the next thing I know, I'm singing All My Hopes in Jesus in the hospital room. And at that point, I said, I knew I was done. When I got out of that, room, I went to the detox center for 5 days. Came in, seen a lot of crazy things that went on there while I was there. And, I got out the 5 days and went home. And I said the first job I went to out of this, the guy was writing me a check, and I went to pick up my money, and the guy said, hey, Eric, I got you something. Jessica left the detox center, drove straight down to his house, walked up, gave me a check, and handed me a half gallon of whiskey. Said, thank you for doing a great job at work. And I walked back to the car with my wife, and I said, here you go, honey, and she's like, well, what's that? What are you going to do with that? And I said, well, we're going to keep it. I still got it, at my house. It's brand new. I've never opened it. I've never touched alcohol. I've quit lots of times and was going to quit, or but I didn't quit. I always snuck drinks, but I can say now, and this is almost 7 years, 6.5 years, I've never touched it. Never touched alcohol again. Do I want to? Yes. But I know what the consequences are, and I had to talk with God that this is it. And I feel like if I ever drink again, then I won't make it. And that's kind of how we left it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to live with, because that's what I believe.
What's crazy is me and my dad, we actually had, my dad had went to jail, and they had put him on house arrest, and he was still in California. And this was, the last 4 years, after my dad got out of jail and he was on house arrest, he really had nothing to do. And he was on lockdown. He couldn't go anywhere. And in that last 4 years he was alive, we actually was able to build a relationship. I mean, we talked once a week, and sometimes a couple times a week, and we just talk about work and stuff, and just laugh, and it was just a great time. But my dad, he made that statement because obviously in jail he got sober, and but he told me that God kind of told him the same thing. If you ever go back, This is the last time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and my dad did go back. And within 4 years, he was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And so I tell people, God will move heaven and earth. I will never be able to get before God and say, God, you should have given me one more chance. If you gave me one more chance, then I would have finally surrendered. But God gives us to the point to where He knows that that's it.
Yeah.
And that's so. Did you keep that bottle just as a reminder to yourself?
Yeah, and I've still got it today, and you know, just that this is what it'll turn you into, you know, and I know that, you know, I'm a different person. You know, it's fun for a little while, and then it's not so fun.
Yeah,
for everybody else too.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely seen the not so fun side.
Oh yeah, I've been on all sides of it. I've been on every side. But we don't always want to be, you know, the way we are at the time. But once it gets a hold of you, you can't control it. Yeah. It's going to be what it is. You know, where, you know, some people can control it more. I was the guy that twisted the cap off and threw it away. Of everything, because I'm wide open. You know, if you ain't got a full bottle, don't offer me none.
Yeah,
you know.
What's funny is I was talking to a guy. We were talking about you, and he said, "Yeah, when Erich showed up to drink, it was going to be a 3-day ordeal. It wasn't just coming over for that night.
Yeah,
and he would say he would not stop.
Yeah." Yeah, and that's the bad thing about it. You know, once we started there, I couldn't turn it off. You know, most people can and know when to say when. But there's certain things that I do that I'm going to do no matter what. You know, and I'm going to, you know, choose wisely anymore to a certain extent. And I can't go tell you I'm not going to try to lift something crazy or, you know, jump a bike over something or do something else, but it won't be from liquor. You know? Yeah.
So what? You know, you mentioned your wife, and which I know your wife.
Oh, sure.
Know your 2 boys.
Yeah.
What? I mean, what did life look like for them? What was your wife? Did she ever leave you, or she?
Oh yeah, no, she stayed with me, but sure, you know, she should have left a lot of times. You know, but she loves me, you know, and we know that now 100% that, you know, she's stuck with me through thick and thin. But, you know, there's only so much someone can put up with, you know,
sure.
of you acting a fool and doing things that bring harm to you or you know, I wasn't abusive, luckily, as far as that goes, as far as beating on my wife or anything. But, you know, you get drunk and say a lot of things you shouldn't say or do, you know. We're all guilty of that, no matter what. You know, it's just life.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect. We're not ever going to be. But God don't ask you to be perfect. You know, He knows what we're going to be.
Yeah.
You know, in the end, and you make a decision. You know, every morning I wake up and I say, I'm not going to drink today. You know, are you going to drink a year from now? No, I don't plan on it, but I'm not going to worry about that. Yeah. I'm not going to look backwards at yesterday either and say, well, I should have did this or should have did that. Those days are gone. Always look forward. Don't ever look back at the back. You can always find something to, you know, down yourself on or, well, if I would have did this, I wouldn't be here now. Well, there's lots of things that you could do different in life. Try to think up front when you're looking at something in the face and facing up on it and being like, hey, I got this under control. I'm going to do this, this, and this today to make my life better. You know, I don't look back and say, boy, if I wouldn't have got drunk then, I wouldn't have did like that or I wouldn't have been this way. I did those things. They're done. I'm not going to look back and live on them. Don't sit around and beat yourself up about what you did in the past. Your past is gone. You've been forgiven. Yeah. We ask God to forgive us. Be forgiven. And don't necessarily, you know, I don't think it's good to you know, run around with people that want to bring up your past all the time or do things with, you know, it's not about the past. It's what you're doing today to make yourself better.
Or guys that want to have you on a podcast to talk about your past.
No. It's also good, you know, to let other people know that there is a better way out there.
Yeah.
You know, and if you haven't lived it, you know, people are, well, you don't understand. You've never been that way. Well, I have. You know, and I've reached a lot of people because, not that I'm some kind of great person, it's because I've been through a lot, and I'm not, you know, they're happy to see me how I am now. And what it would have turned out, you know, I would be gone. There's no doubt in my mind. That was my last day.
Yeah.
January the 18th or 19th, 2019. That was my last day on earth.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I was just thinking about your older boy. You know, he's kind of battling some sickness and stuff going on with his body. He's lost some of his strength. And, you know, he needs his dad around. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he's in a spot right now. You know, depression could try to keep up on him. He doesn't have answers of why he's dealing with what he's dealing, and you know, alcohol could have kept you from being there, being a good dad, being a supportive. You know, because you know, your boys need you. Yeah. You know, and I think that's. You know, like Randy, he made a good statement. I'm going to use it a lot because it's just so true, and it's so simple. He just said, you never know how good it is until it is. Mm-hmm. You know, and when you're struggling with addiction or you're just not doing your duties, you know, whatever it may be, maybe you're just not stepping in and being that father that you need to be or husband that you need to be, and not allowing God to show you, to direct you. You never really truly get to see what the true purpose of what God has planned for you if you're not following Him. Mm-hmm. You know, what you're truly created for, and just the you know, I truly believe that when you serve the Lord, like the pains and the struggles and the things that we do ourselves to people and to ourselves that hurt people, hurt ourselves, God can take all that, because the Bible gives us a promise: what Satan means for evil, God will turn for good. Mm-hmm. And your struggle, your addiction, and things you went through, now you've got a heart for people that are struggling through that. But also you realize, like you said, you know, you realize that could have been your last day, and God gave you a second chance. Yeah. And now you can go all out, but you can go all out serving the Lord, and you can go all out being a dad and being a husband and running your business, and you know, and you treat people well, and you're you know, you're very honest. You know, you don't ever shy back. If we're really, you know, if I call you and struggling, or if you're struggling, you don't try to pretend that you're something you're not. Yeah. You know, and you understand the importance of just being, you know, admitting that without God, it's just not going to be possible.
No, there's lots of things we look back on. I do look back and on the past sometimes, just to know how good it is, you know. And it don't have to be the bad things you look back on, but the way I live today, you know, is not like it was, you know, 3 years ago, much less, you know, say 6 years ago or 7 years ago when I was out. I don't really know how I made it, you know, a lot of times. And I do know how now, you know, because God kept His hand over me and watched out for me. But we also, you know, God will help you, but you also have to make decisions on your own to want help and to want to be helped doing things. And you got to want to be better. You know, if you don't want to be better, it's another one of those things I look off to. You know, when I do something, mostly sporting events, I want to be the very best. And sometimes those are bad traits and things, because you can't always be the best, but you can put that effort in to be the best. Yeah. And eventually you're going to come out winning. I can promise you. Yeah. You don't fail. If you put a wholehearted effort into something, you may fail at that right now, but there will be a time that will come. If you stay with it and stick with it, you're going to overcome. It doesn't matter. I just say mind over matter. It's kind of like, you know, I've been told lots of times I shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, but my body's still doing it, and I'm safe to an extent. There's going to be injuries that come along, but that's what I'm willing to take the risk for that. Sure. You know, so you live that knowing that you can, but also I have a higher power that I put a lot of faith in to keep me safe and things, not necessarily from having an injury, but I feel 100% safe knowing that if something bad happens to me in anything I do, that I'm going to go to heaven. Where before I didn't know I wouldn't go to heaven, you know, and I knew that.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't care, but you know, a lot of times, you know, even when you're doing the right thing that you believe's right, you know, things go bad still. That's another thing I think a lot about, that people say, oh, well, now that you're not drinking, doing this, your life's great. Well, it's not always great.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of ups and downs, and you know, work, we do have a business, and, you know, there's struggles that come along with anything. There's struggles that come along with life every day. And being able to overcome them, or being able to deal with them. You don't always overcome struggles. You know, at some point you do. But I believe that, you know, you have to go through some kind of struggles in life and it kind of builds who you are.
Sure.
You know, and how you overcome them, and what you do with the struggles that you have, you know, and make good, not always bad out of them.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you don't, when things are going good, you're not learning much.
No. Yeah. When things are good, everything's good.
Yeah. But yeah, when things really, hit the fan and it becomes a struggle, you start doing a gut check and praying a lot more, you know, seeking the Lord and trying to, you know, but yeah, you could be really feeling like you're doing your very best and fail anyway.
Yeah, and some things I look at now too on that is like you say, whenever things are going good, it's easy to be good. You know, or live right, or do this. Boy, this is great. Life's great. But when you're worried about what you're going to do tomorrow, and have to make decisions on your life or your family's life, that's the times that I would fall into the bottle and not come out, because I wanted to run from the problems. Yeah. Now I fall on my knees, you know, and then ask God to, Lord, help me today. I don't know if I'm going to make it. You know,
I think it probably could be a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Used to fall on the bottle, now fall on my knees.
Yeah. You know,
that's incredible.
It's a lot different, you know, and the things we look at, just life's way better on this side than the other.
Yeah.
The devil's always going to want to pull you in, you know. I said, you know, people that they say, well, boy, you're just down low. I said, yeah, you know, we're just down so low, mosquito wouldn't even bite you, you know. Those things, you know, you look at those things and laugh, and until you've been that low, a lot of people don't understand that the lows that you do feel, and just like living the highs and lows of life every day. There's lots of ups and downs in life, and we're going to keep living it. But you got to want to do better and make better, you know, out of it, and trust in God that whatever way you choose is going to be the best path.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that misconception, I'm sure, I know I had a little bit when I gave my life to Christ, that things would always just work out. Yeah. You know, that would, and I also had that same thought when I got married, that, you know, that a lot of the issues that I had would go away, but they don't. You know, but like you said, you know, now instead of falling to addiction or running away, you got somebody to run to.
Yeah.
You know, you run to the Lord, and God gives you. He actually commands us to not be cowards. You know, a lot of times for me, it wasn't that I was brave and wanting to face a problem. You go to addiction because you don't want to think about the problem or deal with the problem, right? And God calls us. The Bible says in Proverbs that the righteous are bold as lions, but the wicked flee when no one's even pursuing them. You know, sometimes, you know, you be out in the world and you just conjure up problems that you make them a lot bigger than what they are, and stuff that you really could deal with. You easily get overwhelmed. And a lot of times that will turn you to drinking or leaving or quitting. And, you know, now God, in my life, he holds me accountable, you know, to bite my tongue sometimes, you know, when I really want to say something, or, you know, treat people a certain way when you feel like maybe they're not treating you right, but you choose to treat them right anyway. And and sticking around. You know, I mean, just everything. You know, God holds us accountable in every area in our life, and so that instead of constantly running from problems, God teaches us and keeps us accountable to always deal with our problems, to never let a problem go truly unresolved, and yeah, it's definitely a different mindset, you know, and I'm sure you probably maybe feel the same way, but God, the way I think now to how I used to think is just different. You know, especially with people that I felt done me wrong, or that I didn't agree with or didn't like, you know, I had no problem letting them know or speaking my mind, and now I don't have to be the last voice, or don't have to get my way all the time, and but so now what is what, as far as like your marriage and your business and your relationship with your kids, you feel like God has given all that back to you?
Oh yeah, and a lot more. You know, I say a lot, you know. Now, you know, I tell people, or like, you know, even my wife and family, you know, we try to be thankful and grateful for everything you have. You know, I said when I was, you know, the problems that I had when I went to the detox center and was getting sober, you know, I said they were small when I seen other people that had problems, you know, to them, you know, I'm sure they were huge, but to me they were crazy big. You know, their problems are way worse than mine. You know, but at the end, you know, I was just way more grateful and thankful. That's one thing I think that God showed me, just be grateful for what you have. I don't need a lot to live, or, you know, I want things to have for my family, but other than that, I don't need a lot. You know, I just want to have a life that's pretty low key and, you know, living, and try to save some money, and you know, other than that, your problems are pretty good if you got health, you know. And that's something now that, you know, dealing with my son, he's been sick for, you know, going on a couple months now, and we still don't have a lot of answers, but, you know, I have faith that there will be answers. And now it's just a trying time to kick the devil in the face that, you know, you're not going to get me down, and I'm not going to go back to my old ways, you know. Bring it on, you know, whatever you could think you can bring me, God will make it better for me, you know, and we will overcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Erich, I think that, you know, that you don't carry around shame. And I mean, I'm sure there's things you wish you could have changed and stuff, but it doesn't hold you down. You love your family big. You still do things big, you know. You still you know, pushing for records and lifting weights, but I think that you're a testimony to when you just completely surrender to God. It doesn't matter what pit that you find yourself in, or what destruction you've caused, or hurt or pain, that God can restore. I mean, really, you know, a betting man would probably bet against you.
Oh yeah.
You know, but God never did. You know, God was always rooting for you, and it's incredible that, you know, and we talked about this. You knew better.
Oh yeah,
right?
I knew what.
Like,
I knew what was wrong.
Yeah,
right.
you got a pastor for a dad.
I physically, you know, I would put it, you know, off to something else. Is I knew that I was doing wrong. Now, I don't really get into the battle of was drinking wrong or right. It was wrong for me.
Yeah,
I couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
maybe other people can. If people was real honest, there's not a lot of people that can handle it.
Yeah,
they try to say they can, you know, but there's a lot of people that can't. Me, I can't.
Yeah,
and I know that, but I'm not going to do it again. You know, I can sit here now and tell you I'll never drink again. 100%. I'll never do it.
Yeah.
And just for the fact I told you, and God spoke to me clearly, and this is it. That was it. That day, that was it.
Yeah.
And I said, there's not very many addicts, or, I drank for over 20 years, and the last 3 was live or die tomorrow. We don't know if I'm going to make it tomorrow or not. Just for the fact I might go to sleep and not ever wake up.
Yeah.
And you kind of take those things for granted, but you only got so many times of that, And I believe that just how I am, I'm going to say it again, God told me, and that's it. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what else you think or what you think. That's how I believe. And so with my faith, that I know what he told me, and I know that he don't lie. And so that's enough proof for me.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Erich for coming on the podcast, sharing your story, and the whole hope is that somebody might be struggling. Yeah, well, and we know that people are struggling. We personally still know people that are struggling, and but we also know a lot of people that God's given them victory, and so I just want to say that maybe if you find yourself in a position like Erich was, to where you're at a point to, if you live or die, you've almost lost hope, but you don't really even care, and maybe you think that there's no point of living, or maybe to a point where you think that the world would be better off. Just know that it wouldn't be. That you have a purpose, that God has a distinct design for your life, and what Satan wants to do is to try to stop you from seeing what God truly created you for, to see what life, when God talks about having life and having it more abundantly. Me and Erich have, through God's grace, have gotten to step outside of what Satan meant to destroy our lives, to get to see what life more abundantly, what true joy, what truly enjoying our families, enjoying our wives, enjoying our kids, enjoying serving the Lord and the people around us, taking that blindfold off, and God giving us a life that we wouldn't even imagine. And it has nothing to do with wealth. Like Erich said, he just wants to be happy, wants to serve the Lord, wants to do right with his family. And God does give us sometimes both. But wealth can never buy true love and true happiness and time with our family. But just God's ways just are far greater than what you can experience on your own. And you'll never know until you give God a chance. So I just hope that you're inspired by Erich's story. Erich, thanks for sharing, man. And always love just being around you and talking to you. And I appreciate you being here with us. And just keep it up, man. Just keep serving the Lord and doing what's right. And keep hitting your knees instead of hitting the bottle.
That's right.
I might make a shirt out of that or something.
Yeah.
I'll give you the copyright if I do. Hey guys, thanks for watching us on Unfathered Fathers. I hope that Erich Blanton's story and his willingness to be open with his struggle with alcohol and what it potentially could have done to his family and to him on his last chance, where he felt like he had no hope and that maybe life was over for him, God spoke to him and gave him a second chance and started his journey of becoming the man and father that he was truly meant to be. On our next episode, we're going to be interviewing my baby sister and just listen to her incredible story of feeling dirty, feeling unworthy, of God coming into her life even when she didn't even expect it, and God truly transforming her life. I'm excited for you to hear her story. And as always, remember, the easiest way to become an idiot is to surround yourself with idiots, and you'll quickly become one. Thanks for watching.